Hello everyone, my name is Farag. Today I'm going to be modeling this church in Blender. So anyways, enjoy the time lapse, and when it's over I'll give a few tips on how to model the church. Anyways, enjoy the video and stay awesome. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that time lapse. I'm now going to explain a few things, how I model different things in the church and some techniques and stuff. So just stick around for that, and have an awesome day. Okay, so I have this simple scene with this piano, and basically I'm going to show you how I did the booleans for like the keys and stuff. So basically, if you look at these keys, it would say, let's go to this mode. You can see if you look really closely, they basically have a cutout for the black keys. And the way I did that basically was I would have this object before I made this. Basically, it would just be like now I applied the scale, so this is a bit out of proportion. But basically, I first would make a block out, like with a little block like that, to the scale I wanted the cut for the key to be. Then I would duplicate that, and I would model from this duplicate, refine it down to look like this, and scale down a little bit. Then what I would do is I would add a boolean modifier to this, and it would be linked to these keys. And then I would hide the keys. You can see they would leave a cut, and basically I'd have the black keys over that, so it would look like there's a little space there. And I'd also make sure when you do booleans, also make sure they're hid from the render by just shutting this camera off. But I don't need that boolean there. Another example is up here. So this is sort of like the hinge for the piano I modeled. But I also, to have that little indent there, little groove, I basically modeled at a larger version of that cylinder, which is the piano hinge cut. And then you can see here I had a boolean that was linked to that. Now in certain cases you might have to use it might not work with a certain type of solver. I don't exactly know what the difference is between these, but generally it doesn't really matter if you have it on fast or exact for the solver. Like you can see here, the cut's still there. And you're also, if you're gonna want to do this for like Windows and stuff, or like the piano keys, you don't want on like union, because that's just gonna join both of them. And intersect, that's only gonna leave what both of them are intersecting. As you can see, that looks real weird. No, you're gonna want this to be on difference, and that'll basically let you cut all of your holes and stuff for your booleans. So anyway, that's basically how I did that with the boolean cuts. So yeah. Alright, so I'm going to show you how I made this simple glass material. So first thing I did is I added a plane and extruded it out and gave it some width. Now you could also add like a cube and make it a rectangle or something. Then what I did is I added an area light so I could shine light through it. And then I went to make the material. So in order to make this material, the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need an image texture. Then what you're going to want to do with that image texture, so if we do Control Shift left mouse button, that allows us to view it. So you can see over here, I just used another render I made in Blender for this. And then basically what I did is I put it through a Voronoi texture. Now this Voronoi texture, you're going to want this to be in 4D, you're going to want it to be in F1, and this doesn't matter right here. Then you're going to want to duplicate that and make another one, but you're going to want it to instead of being in, you're going to want it to be in 4D, but you're also going to want it to be in distance to edge. And what this will do, and this will make those little panes for you. Now you're going to want to be able to control the scale and sort of the location of the image. And how you do that is you got two value nodes, one for the scale and then one for the width, and that one has to be hooked up to both of these, both the scale and the width option on both of them. So you can see if this one right here is for the scale, so if I adjust the scale, it'll make the panes bigger or smaller. And then this one is for the width, so you can see that was sort of moving around a little bit. And then what you're also going to want is in the vectors of both of these, you're going to want to make a mapping and a texture coordinate node. So what you're going to want to do is do Control T, and that will automatically make those two nodes if you have the Node Regular add-on installed. So on the texture coordinate, you're going to want it to be hooked up to object, right? Because if it's hooked up to generated, that's not going to look right. So you want it hooked up to the object. And then the location, I just had all these set to 0.6, but you can adjust individual locations and you can see how that would sort of vary it out a little bit. Like that, but I just could keep it at 0.6. Then what I did is, because if you just had this Voronoi texture hooked up to here, it looks way too dark. And so instead, I added a color ramp so that those lines would be a little thinner. And what I did basically is I changed this to cardinal, and then I put the black one all the way here, because if it's not, it's going to look too thick like that. And then you can see if the white line's all the way at the other side, it's going to look too dark, and so you don't want it to be all the way over here because it looks too thin. But like somewhere like around there is good. Then what I did is I basically added a mix node. Just do Shift A and search for mix, and I changed it from float to color and from mix to multiply. And basically that would give you your multiply node. And in this, basically I just hooked up the image texture to the A and the color ramp to the B, and the factor just is up to 1, because if it's not, then it's not going to look right. Then I added a glass BSDF and hooked up to the result to that, had it on multi-scatter GGX, and then had the roughness up to 1 and the index of refraction to 1.45. And I could just show you what the difference looks like with that. So that's what it looks like with just the multiply node. With the glass node, that really is what makes it look like a glass pane. And then I just hooked that up to a material output, and like that, you got glass panes. Okay, so you can see I'm inside my Blender church. Now I want to show you how I made the sky texture, because some of you might not know how to do that. So basically what I did is I basically changed the world's material, because in each Blender scene, basically your world has its own default material, and you can change this to like add a sky texture or do all sorts of things. So go in the shader editor, go where it says object and go to world, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to do Shift A and add a sky texture. Now you can mess around with this, like with the sun size and the elevation. And depending on what the elevation is, you can have like a sunrise. You can have it where it's just about starting to get up, or you can have it where, like, let's say it's 90, it'll be like overhead for the most part. You can also change the sun size too. You can make it larger, smaller. You can even get rid of a sun disk altogether, which means you're not going to have a visible sun. You can change your altitude, so the higher the altitude is, the more it's going to look like you're like in space. So if you do it to like its maximum, it's going to be all black, and you aren't really going to see this. You aren't going to really see the effects of the atmosphere, right? So, just as an example, you could also change the air. Let's just change this to 1. You can change the air. It's going to make it more reddish. But if you have the air to 0, then it's going to look like what the atmosphere... I guess this is how this works. It's going to look like the way your atmosphere would look if it had like no oxygen in it or something. But we just one's fine with all these. The dust, that'll basically do this. And the ozone will basically make it more blue. So that's basically how you do it. Yeah, that's how I did it with sky texture. Alright, so I really hope you enjoyed this time lapse. I will be trying to come out with more content in the future, so if you want to, you can subscribe, but you don't have to. So anyways, have an awesome day, and see you later.